So guys, waiting if somebody comes in to explain some things. Geography, science, talking about the shape of the earth, physical shape of the earth is physical truth. Samoa Islands. Hey guys, let me explain something to you. I picked 3 airlines here that you can find on Google flight search. Let's take the first one, Santiago, Chile to LA to Sydney. That's an actual airline in truth. Again, Santiago, Chile to LA to Sydney. Let's go to the southern hemisphere, which is this map of a supposed globe, and let's take it. Santiago, Chile to LA to Sydney. Santiago de Chile is here. That's South America. You go beyond the equator to LA, which is not even on the southern hemisphere map. You go beyond the equator to LA, and then you go back to Sydney. How does this make sense on a ball? Wouldn't it be much shorter to go from Chile to Sydney directly if the Earth was a ball? Just cross Antarctica, or if it's about cold curve. Okay, why does the airline go from Chile to LA on a flat Earth map? It makes perfect sense. Why? Because Chile is here, Sydney is there, LA is here. So you go from Santiago de Chile to LA to Sydney. Makes perfect sense. It's a straight line, it's the shortest distance. But on a southern hemisphere, what do we have here? We go to beyond the equator, and then coming back here to Sydney. Doesn't make sense if the ball is supposed to be round or like a spherical shape, like this, southern hemisphere, spherical. Shortest distance from Chile to Santiago de Chile to Sydney will be just going around the ball, around South Pole. But of course South Pole doesn't exist like this. Antarctica is not a small continent like this. Antarctica is this, a outer ring. Let's take another flight route. Santiago de Chile to Sao Paulo, Brazil, to Angola, to Cape Town. Let's take it first from the southern hemisphere. Again, we have Santiago de Chile, which is here. Then we have Sao Paulo, which is around here, Brazil. Then we have Angola, which is Angola up here, Africa up here there. And then Cape Town is down here. So wouldn't it be convenient if the Earth was a ball and this shows the southern hemisphere map to go the shortest distance from Chile to Cape Town directly? Why does the airline go from Chile to Sao Paulo and then to Angola and then coming down to Cape Town? That doesn't make sense in reality because this doesn't exist. Antarctica is not a small continent like this. The southern hemisphere, the ball doesn't exist. On a flat earth map, it makes perfect sense. You have Santiago de Chile down here. You go to Sao Paulo, which is Brazil. Then you go to Angola, and then you go to Cape Town. Makes perfect sense. It's a straight line. The southern Antarctica is a ring, a outer rim. It's not a continent, not a south pole, it's not a ball, it's just a flat earth. And airlines show it, it makes perfect sense. Southern hemisphere doesn't exist. Airlines don't make sense. You get a third one from Google. Cape Town to Dubai to Sydney. let's look at the southern hemisphere. How would you go from Cape Town to Sydney? Well, directly, right? Just crossing Antarctica. But no, in reality, practical reality, the airline goes from Cape Town to Dubai beyond the equator and then coming back to Sydney. Doesn't make sense because Earth is not a ball. On a flat Earth map, which is scientifically and practically correct, what do you have? Cape Town around here. You have Sydney there. How would you go there? Of course, in a straight line. And somewhere there is Dubai. Or you can go to Hong Kong. Just go straight there. That's the practical airline. Showing you that Earth is not a ball, but flat. Because here it doesn't make sense. You go from Sydney beyond the equator, first to Dubai, then coming back in, like down here to Cape Town. Doesn't make sense if you could just go directly. Okay. So we have 3 airlines that you can search on Google Flights, Skyscanner, wherever you want. Check them. You have a southern hemisphere map, right? That's what it looks like. Then just check if the airlines or how the airlines are supposed to go from Chile to LA, which is beyond the equator in the United States, going there and then coming back to Sydney. How does this make sense on the southern hemisphere? Doesn't make any sense. Or you have Cape Town to Sydney. Cape Town flight goes to Dubai beyond the equator, then coming back beyond the equator again to Sydney, although the direct distance is here. Okay, doesn't make sense because Earth is not a ball, Antarctica is not a south pole. That's what Earth is. That's the physical truth of Earth. You have a southern ring, which is Antarctica, that keeps all the water masses inside, and then the airlines make perfect sense. South America, Chile, Santiago de Chile, you go to LA straight, and then from LA you go straight to Sydney. Makes perfect sense. Okay, that's the shortest distance between the two destinations. LA is on the way, that's why you're doing it. Same with Cape Town and Sydney. Shortest distance is of course directly. and on the way you get some Dubai or Hong Kong. Okay. Makes perfect sense on a flat map, but on the southern hemisphere, it's absolutely nonsense. These are practical airlines. In practical reality, this southern hemisphere is a hoax, because practical reality is this. Okay. Scientifically and practically correct. Patent allowed November 15th, 1892. That's the physical shape of the Earth. Sun and Moon are hovering above it somewhere, keeping its altitude. All the stars are doing the same thing. And let's say if you're living somewhere here in the US, why don't you see the sun when it's here? Simply because of perspective, because your horizon is so small, it's not even visible on the map here. Your horizon is a circle that is that's not even 1% of Earth's surface. Okay, so that's why, because of perspective, you cannot see the sun when it's here. And you're there. You're very close to the floor. It creates perspective. It creates a barrier, a visual barrier between you and the sun. That's why you can't see it. Very simple. Southern Hemisphere map. Does it make sense? Let's see. We have 3 flights here: Santiago, Chile, LA, Sydney. Santiago, Chile, Sao Paulo, Angola, Cape Town, or Cape Town, Dubai, Sydney. These are 3 flights that you get from Google Flights or Skyscanner. Practical reality, practically correct, okay? Now, this is a supposed Southern Hemisphere map. Let's see if it's correct. Let's put it together. Santiago, Chile, LA, Sydney. Santiago de Chile is here. LA is not even on the map. It's beyond the equator. Going there. Sydney is here. So we go from LA back here. On the southern hemisphere, Chile, Santiago, and Sydney could be directly connected, just flying over Antarctica. But in truth, that's not what's happening. You have Cape Town. First the flight goes to Dubai, then Dubai, which is beyond the equator. Okay, the flight then from Dubai comes back to Sydney. Although the direct flight would be Cape Town to Sydney, conveniently going just beyond the equator, but of course that flight doesn't exist because there is no southern hemisphere and Antarctica is not a small continent. Okay, we have 3 airlines that you can check: Cape Town, Dubai, Sydney, for example. That's a southern hemisphere map. Does it make sense? How would you go from Cape Town to Sydney? Cape Town is here, Sydney is there. That's on a supposed globe. These come together. The distance becomes shorter because, yeah, that is supposed to be a pole. Because of a spherical shape, Cape Town and Sydney would be moving closer to each other. So the shortest distance between Cape Town and Sydney would be going directly along the southern hemisphere. But in practical reality, we go from Cape Town to Dubai and then from Dubai to Sydney. Very simple. This is practical correct. practical correct airline. Practically correct airline. You see? But this is a map, it's just a graphic, it's a model, it doesn't represent the truth.